I welcome everyone to the Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Arjun Sakha Das Prabhuji to enlighten us on the topic, the golden lion of the gold on the Lord. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. And Prabhuji is joining for the first time in the Bhakti Sangha group. We are so fortunate to have Prabhuji Association. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your wonderful association and valuable time to us. I would like to give a brief and short introduction about Prabhuji. Um, Arjun Sakha Das is a Diksha disciple of His Holiness Radha Govind Das Goswami Maharaj, who is a senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, very well known for his classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Academically, Arjun Sakha Das holds a Master's in Information Systems from New Jersey and spiritually holds the Bhakti Shastri degree from ISKCON Chowpatty, Mumbai. He has been actively preaching in many ISKCON centers around the world and has specially been cultivating the youth at ISKCON Seattle. At his all his past lectures can be viewed at his channel Arjun Sakadas Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I warmly welcome you to the Bhakti Sangha conference call. Thank you so much once again for your wonderful association. Please I'll hand over the call to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let me just quickly share my screen. Yes, can someone confirm if the screen is visible?
Yes, Prabhu.
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadhi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Aindra Prabhu iti namine Namaste Shripad Aindraya Namarasa Vinodine Nitai Janava Sarvasva Shri Radha Swasra Sangine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadharam Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Anandalilamaya Vigrahaya Heimavadivya Chavisundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada for so mercifully gifting His glorious, wonderful disciples to all of us who have been traveling around the globe preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and preaching the holy names of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Secondly, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude and offer my millions upon millions of Dandavat Pranams at the lotus feet of Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Swami Rupanuga Acharya Varya Shripad Aindra Prabhu, whose appearance day we are celebrating today. And I would want to beg his blessing so that I can glorify him to the best of my ability. And lastly, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Kirtida Sundari Mataji, Preeti Vilasini Mataji, and all the senior exalted devotees and all the wonderful, glorious Vaishnavas who are present on this call for very kindly inviting me to your Sangha so that on this auspicious day I can purify my tongue by speaking few words of glorification of Sripada Indra Prabhu. I beg all the devotees to kindly keep me in your prayers so that I can glorify Aindra Prabhu to the best of my ability. Please accept my very humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 5th canto, in the episode of Maharaj Rahugan, Shukadev Goswami makes a very interesting and very wonderful point. Shukadev Goswami says, Rahuganai tat tapasa nayati na chejaya nirvapanat grihitva na chandasa naiva jalagni surya vida mahat padarajo bhishekam. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 12, Text 12. Shukadev Goswami says, Rahu Ganaita Tapasanayati. O Rahugan, O Maharaj Rahugan, Etat, this knowledge of the absolute truth, Tapasanayati. You cannot understand the absolute truth just by performing rules and regulations or just by performing austerities. Na chejaya nirvapana grihitva. One cannot even understand the absolute truth by leaving the household duties of Grahastha ashram and entering sannyas. So one cannot understand the absolute truth by leaving the home and taking sannyas, while one cannot even understand the truth by just performing rules and regulations or by just performing austerities. Na chejaya nirvapana grihitva. Shukadev Goswami says, Na chejaya. It is not even by celibacy. One may be a brahmachari, but that still doesn't guarantee that one will get Krishna. Na chejaya nirvapanat grihitva. And he says, one may be a brahmachari, but one may still not get Krishna. On the contrary, it's also possible that one may submerge oneself inside water during winter. Now, we know that is very difficult to submerge oneself inside water during winter. Shukadev Goswami says that is also possible. Someone may even do that. Or there may be someone who may surround himself with hot blazing fire. Or there may be someone who may sit under the sun during summer. Shukadev Goswami says, even by doing all these things, one will still not get Krishna. It is still not guaranteed that one will know the absolute science. Now rises the important question, dear devotees. Then how can one understand Krishna? If it is not through austerities, and if it is not just through mere renunciation, and if it is not through submerging oneself in cold water in winter, or by sitting under blazing sun, or by even remaining a brahmachari, then the question arises, how can we understand Krishna? Shukadev Goswami makes a very brilliant point. He says, Rahu Ganaita Tapasanayati na chejaya nirvapana grihitva na chandasa naiva jala agni surya vina mahat pada rajobhishekam. He says, vina mahat pada rajobhishekam. Till the time one doesn't smear upon his head the dust of the lotus feet of pure Vaishnavas. The word used is mahat, which means exalted devotees. Till the time one doesn't smear the dust of the lotus feet of pure Vaishnavas upon their head, till that time perfection in spiritual life is a far-fetched reality. One may do different things that are possible, but till the time one is not favored by a pure Vaishnava, till the time there is no kripa, till the time there is no mercy upon a particular individual, till that time one can never advance in bhakti, how much ever we try on our own. And we find that this is the repeated theme in Srimad Bhagavatam, not just in Canto 5, but starting from the first canto till the 12th canto. And likewise, Kaviraj Goswami continues that theme even in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. time and again he makes this point as to how it is only pure Vaishnava's mercy that can help us advance on this path of Krishna Bhakti. And it is not just by our own endeavors. So we find that the reason why we are all gathered today is we are all performing Krishna Bhakti to the best of our ability. But we hope and pray that by speaking about Sripad Aindra Prabhu on this day, who is a Mahat, who is a Paramhamsa Vaishnav, may we become the Kripa Patra, may we become the recipients of mercy of Sripad Aindra Prabhu, and may we also advance little on our path of Krishna Bhakti, of attaining Krishna in this lifetime. So, having said this, we now try to begin our conversation. We find, dear devotees, that this is what Srila Prabhupada says in the last phrase of the 5th canto, chapter 12, text 12 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada says that there are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. Very crystal clear philosophy, dear devotees. Prabhupada is time and again reiterating the same point that without sadhu guru kripa, without the mercy of a pure Vaishnav, we can never progress on this path of Krishna Bhakti. So we find that before we dive into Aindra Prabhu's life in Vrindavan, which everyone is very much familiar with, we find in the whole of our Krishna consciousness movement, there is probably no one who has not heard the name of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. Right from a toddler to a devotee who has been practicing this path for about 4 or 5 decades, every single one has at least heard the name of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. He needs absolutely no introduction for all of us. But nonetheless, just to set the benchmark for our discussion and to purify our consciousness, we will try to see as to how Sripad Aindra Prabhu joined the Krishna consciousness movement. So on the 12th of March, 1953, that's roughly around 68 years ago, a very beautiful young Tejasvi, effulgent boy who was very skilled, very talented, he appeared to a musically inclined family. And why do I say musically inclined family? Well, for the fact that his parents, his father was into music and his brothers were also into music. And naturally, by the time he grew up, he was given the name as Edward Stryker. And as we know in America, the Edward becomes Eddie. Like the Alexander, if someone has a name Alexander, Alexander turns up into Sasha. Likewise, if it's an Indian child, if his name is Madhav, it turns into Maddie. If someone's name is Gopal, it turns into Gopi. So in America, we find somehow or the other, everyone has a nickname. Likewise, the Edward turned into Eddie, and he was very well known amongst his friend circle as Eddie Stryker. So Eddie Stryker, right from his teenage years, because he came from a very musically inclined family, he was playing the bass guitar. He was into the bass guitar as his profession. And somehow or the other, by the Lord's supreme arrangement, when he was in Washington, D.C., the devotees were out on street Sankirtan, on Nagar Sankirtan. And naturally, because Eddie was so much into music, the sound of mridanga, the sound of kartal, and the different sound of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra was something that he had not come across. So naturally, he got inclined into this music and he started following the devotees. So the devotees were walking ahead. The lead Kirtaniya was walking ahead and chanting and dancing with his troop. And Eddie, young Eddie, was following them behind. So much so that the slippers that he was wearing, at one time, one of the slippers was left behind because he was so keen on following the devotees that somehow or the other, one slipper was left behind. So when the lead Kirtaniya, he saw this, he turned towards Eddie and said that, why don't you go and get your slippers? We will wait for you. You can go and get your slippers and then we will continue on our street Sankirtan. But Eddie did not want to miss out on this opportunity. He said, I will have a lot of chances to buy various other slippers, but I do not want to miss out on this opportunity of being in association of the devotees. And sure enough, he ended up following the devotees and he reached the local ISKCON temple. And dear devotees, that was the start of Eddie's Krishna Bhakti in this lifetime. Not hearing any philosophy as such, but the first encounter with the devotees was through the Harinam Sankirtan. And later, when he met the devotees, he read the book of Ishopanishad. And then he was completely convinced of this philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And very soon, Eddie joined the near ISKCON temple. And on the day of Nityananda Trayodasi, the day Nityananda Prabhu appeared, Adi Guru Nityananda Rai, when he appeared on this world, Srila Prabhupada accepted Eddie into this Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya and gave him an immortal name that still remains immortal in the pages of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Srila Prabhupada gave him the transcendental name Aindra Das, Aindra Prabhu. On the day of Nityananda Trayodasi, one more moon appeared on this dark horizon of Kali by the name Aindra Prabhu. And during those days, as Aindra Prabhu later describes, that book distribution and Harinam Sankirtan were the main two things that were the backbone of the Krishna consciousness movement. Devotees would go out for book distribution and devotees would also go out for Harinam Sankirtan. So much so that during the days when he was in Washington, D.C., the whole temple had only 19 devotees. But of that 19 devotees, 18 devotees would go out on the streets to perform Harinam Sankirtan. That's a very large number, dear devotees. That's almost 99% of the whole temple going out every single day to perform Harinam Sankirtan. And likewise, when Aindra Prabhu later, when he moved to Sri Radha Govinda Mandir in Brooklyn, we see we all at one point or the other would have been to Radha Govinda Mandir, Brooklyn. And that is the place where Aindra Prabhu stayed from 1981 until 1986. For about 5 years, that was the base of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. And even during those days in Brooklyn, Aindra Prabhu describes that about 250 devotees would go out on the streets on weekends. I repeat, 250 devotees out on the streets. We can imagine the atmosphere that it would create if 250 devotees are there on the streets chanting and dancing. And 125 devotees would be on one side of the Broadway. 125 devotees would be on another side of the Broadway. And 250 devotees would converge at one point. And there would be about 20 mridangas. We can imagine how outrageous the sound would be when 250 devotees are chanting and dancing on top of their lungs. Aindra Prabhu describes that is how Hare Krishna became a household name, because all of Prabhupada's disciples were either distributing books or were distributing Harinam Sankirtan. And these were the two principal gifts that Srila Prabhupada offered to all of us. Nam Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy names, and distributing of the transcendental books. So from 1981 up till 1986, Aindra Prabhu would do 14 hours of Harinam Sankirtan. let that sink in, dear devotees. Let that digest. 14 hours of Harinam Sankirtan. We see on festival days sometimes when we lead Kirtan, we end up leading for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour and a half. And by the time it's an hour and a half, our vocal cords are completely drained out. Our vocal cords go for a toss. We can imagine if 14 hours of Harinam Sankirtan, not one day, not 2 days, but every single day for years together when he was there in the US. 14 hours Harinam Sankirtan. And Aindra Prabhu would not have the conventional way of doing Harinam Sankirtan. He would not just walk around the streets serving the holy name, but he was so skilled. Not only was he skilled as far as music is concerned, but he was also so artistic that he converted a bus into a moving temple. Dear devotees, what I'm about to show right now will just blow our minds completely if we have not seen anything like this. This is what Aindra Prabhu created. Now, if we see to the right, to the right side, we find there are tires. So it's actually a bus, but Aindra Prabhu transformed that bus into a complete temple. We see it looks like a perfect temple, a perfect ornate temple. And this moving bus would go to different places of New York City. It would go to Brooklyn, it would go to Manhattan, it would go to Jackson Heights, where there are predominantly more Indians. It would go to Queens, and Aindra Prabhu would target the areas where there are more and more Indians who are familiar with the chanting of the holy names. Just it's a sight to behold. It's a feast for the eyes, dear devotees. Just look at his artistic work, single-handedly coming up with such a innovative idea and such a brilliant idea, so that if normal people are not attracted to the chanting of the holy names, may they get attracted to this artistic work that he had created, so that yena kena prakarena, hook or crook, let them get attracted to this Krishna consciousness movement. And we see probably there would be no one on this call who would not agree to this fact that this is nothing less than a masterpiece. We find there are different traveling bus parties, but to have something like this, which is almost like a proper golden temple standing in different places of New York City, it can attract anyone. Even an atheist would get attracted seeing this. This is how skilled Aindra Prabhu was. So not just music, not just his artistic work, but Aindra Prabhu was also ambidextrous. He could use both his hands to the best. Like many times we find there are many videos where Aindra Prabhu is either writing or he is decorating Radha Shyam Sundar in Vrindavan. And he is using both his hands to decorate Shyam Sundarji, or using both his hands to decorate Radha Govinda in Brooklyn. So he was not only good with his right hand, he was equally good with his left hand. He could write with his left hand, he could sign with his left hand, he could paint deities with his left hand, and he could play harmonium with his right hand. He could play the flute with his right hand. He could play the mridangas and the drums and the kartals with his right hand. So he was equally good in both right and left, completely ambidextrous. But in the year of 1986, Aindra Prabhu decided to pack his bags. Aindra Prabhu decided to pack his marbles in his own regal way that he mentions. He decided to pack his bags in 1986 and decided to come to Sri Vrindavan Dham. Why? Because he had this desire of having a traveling bus in Vrindavan exactly the similar way that he had in New York City. So he decided to come to Vrindavan with this desire of creating such a traveling bus that would go to different places of India and that would stop by and he could chant for hours and hours and hours together. So that was the desire which Aindra Prabhu came to Sri Vrindavan Dham with a one ticket from New York City till Delhi and from Delhi to Vrindavan with just one ticket of giving the holy names in every town and village of India. But here comes the interesting part. When Aindra Prabhu came to Vrindavan Dham with this desire, there was an accountant by the name Kapoorji. And one day it so happened that Srila Prabhupada came in the dream of Kapoorji. And Prabhupada was crying and weeping and asking Kapoorji that why isn't there any 24-hour Kirtan in Krishna Balaram Mandir? Because in 1975, Srila Prabhupada had started a 24-hour Kirtan. Prabhupada himself had inaugurated a 24-hour Kirtan in 1975. But sadly, when Prabhupada departed this world in 1977, By the January of 1978, the 24-hour Kirtan almost collapsed. There was no 24-hour Kirtan in the temple. So Srila Prabhupada came in the dream of Kapurji, the accountant, and was crying and telling him, why isn't there a 24-hour Kirtan? I dedicated my blood and sweat and tears to start a 24-hour Kirtan, but I see no one is taking up this process. So when Kapurji got up from the dream, he himself had tears, seeing Prabhupada have tears. So immediately he ran towards Aindra Prabhu, who had just come to Krishna Balaram Mandir. Kapurji went to Aindra Prabhu and explained the whole dream as to what Prabhupada desired. Now here comes Aindra Prabhu's masterpiece. When Aindra Prabhu heard this, Aindra Prabhu thought to himself that Kapurji could have come and told this to anyone. There are so many devotees in Krishna Balaram Mandir, and Kapurji could have explained this dream to anyone. But he, of all the people, he came and told me, which means Prabhupada wants me to start the 24-hour Kirtan, which means Prabhupada wants me to re-inaugurate Harinam Sankirtan Krishna Balaram Mandir. Such a beautiful understanding. Aindra Prabhu could have just carried on with his desire of having a traveling bus. But we find a real disciple, a Sat Sishya, is someone who aligns his mood with the mood of Sri Guru. He doesn't do something that he wants whimsically, but he does something that his Sri Guru wants out of him. And Prabhupada wanted someone to start the 24-hour Kirtan, re-inaugurate the 24-hour Kirtan in Krishna Balaram Mandir. And Aindra Prabhu took the onus upon himself to re-inaugurate this 24-hour Kirtan. So in the year of 1986, when Aindra Prabhu came from America to Vrindavan Dham, we find that Aindra Prabhu, after that, he never left Vrindavan Dham. Come what may, there were so many reasons for him to leave Vrajadham. There were health issues, there were so many other factors. But somehow or the other, Aindra Prabhu had so much Brajnishta in his heart that he made sure that he never left the land of Vrindavan. And for the next 24 years, dear devotees, Aindra Prabhu gave his life for the 24-hour Kirtan. For 24 years, he served as the director, as the head, as the leader of the 24-hour Kirtan by giving his blood, by giving his sweat, by giving his tears in Vrindavan Dham. And on the day of Vijayadashmi, Aindra Prabhu decided to start the 24-hour Kirtan. That 24-hour Kirtan, which had completely collapsed after Srila Prabhupada's departure, Aindra Prabhu took it upon himself to take this baton that Srila Prabhupada had given to him of re-inaugurating the 24-hour Kirtan upon himself. On the day of Vijayadashmi, Aindra Prabhu again successfully re-inaugurated Harinam Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He started this on the day of Vijayadashmi. Now the question arises, why Vijayadashmi? Why not any other day? Because the phala, the fruit of Vijayadashmi, dear devotees, is that whatever devotional activity we start on the day of Vijayadashmi, it is a guarantee that that devotional activity will always be victorious. Because the name itself is Vijay, which means victory. So whatever devotional activity we start on that day, it is a guarantee. The power potency of that day is so high that whatever devotional activity we start, that will never end. Whether it is increasing the chanting of our Nam Bhajan in the form of holy names, Nam Japa, or whether it is more hours of Harinam Sankirtan, or whether it is reading more of Prabhupada's books, or whether it is more of Vaishnava Seva, whatever the limb of devotional service is, when it is started on Vijayadashmi, it is a guarantee of Maryada Purushottam Ramchandra that that personality will always be victorious. He will never face failure in his life. And Aindra Prabhu decided to take advantage of this day to start the 24-hour Kirtan. And sure enough, we find, dear devotees, this year, 2021, Vijay Dashmi marks 35 years of Akhanda Harinam Sankirtan. Khanda means divided, something that breaks. Akhanda, something that never breaks. We find Akhanda Guru Tattva. We said that chain of Guru Tattva, undivided chain of Guru Tattva, starting from Nityananda Prabhu or the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna himself. Similarly, Aindra Prabhu started Akhanda Harinam Sankirtan, that Harinam Sankirtan which has not even stopped for a minute in Krishna Balaram Mandir. It's been 35 years and not even 1 minute has passed where there has been no chanting of the holy names. And that was started on the day of Vijay Dashmi. So this is the first take-home lesson, dear devotees, that the coming Vijay Dashmi that we find in 2021, we can take some aspect of devotional service and we can incorporate that in our lives. And it is a guarantee that if the endeavor is sincere, then Maryada Purushottam Ramchandra guarantees that that devotional limb will never stop in our life, whatever the devotional activity may be. So on the day of Vijay Dashmi, Sripad Aindra Prabhu re-inaugurated the 24-hour Kirtan, which eventually gave happiness to the heart of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. And not just Harinam Sankirtan, dear devotees, the land of Vrindavan Dham was very, very dear to the heart of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. In truest sense, Aindra Prabhu was a Brajabasi, because we find Shukadev Goswami in the Bhagavatam, he draws parallels between two pastimes. First pastime is that of the Samudra Manthan pastime, and the second pastime is that of the friends of Krishna in Vrindavan Dham. Shukadev Goswami says, Mithai kalira bhuttesham tad arthe tarsha chetasam aham purvam natvam iti prabhu. Shukadev Goswami says, when the nectar was about to come from the churning of the ocean, Mithai kalirabhut tesham tad arthe tarsha chetasam, there arose a fight amongst the demons. What was the fight amongst the demons? Aham purvam. I first, I will take the nectar first. Natvam iti prabhu, you shouldn't get it. I will take the nectar, but you shouldn't get the nectar. This is the mentality of demons, Prabhupada says. This is the mentality of non-devotees, that they want to enjoy everything, but they are unsatisfied when someone else gets the same thing. Aham purvam, natvam iti prabhu. You shouldn't get it, but I should only get the nectar. This is the mentality of the demons. Now comes the best part, dear devotees. Now Shukadev Goswami, in the start of the Brahma Vimohan Leela, he describes the friends of Krishna. He says, Yadi duram gataha Krishna vanasho bhikshanayatvam aham purvam iti samsprishya mire. You see, the third line is exactly the same as that of the Samudra Manthan pastime. But here the difference is Shukadev Goswami says, Yadi duram gataha Krishna. When Krishna would go far away in the forest, vanasho bhikshanayatvam, and Krishna would go far in the forest and he would see different birds, he would see different plants, he would see different animals, and he would enjoy the beauty of the forest of Vrindavan. At that time, what would the friends say? Aham purvam, iti samsprishya re mire. I first, I will go and first touch Krishna. But Shukadev Goswami says, here the mood is, the friends of Krishna are saying, I will go and touch Krishna, but in my endeavor of touching and being with Krishna, I will also inspire you to be with Krishna. This is the mood of Brajavasi. A Brajavasi is someone who wants to be with Krishna, but in the endeavor of being with Krishna, he also inspires others to be with Krishna. This is the real nature of Brajavasi. Unlike the demons that we find in Samudra Manthan pastime, aham purvam, natvam iti prabhu. They wanted the nectar, but they did not want to give it to someone else. But on the flip side, the friends of Krishna, aham purvam iti samsprishya re mere. I will touch Krishna first, But in my endeavor of being with Krishna, I will also inspire you to be with Krishna. And this was Aindra Prabhu, a truest Brajavasi in the real sense, inspiring anyone who came in contact with him about the Mahima of Vrindavan Dham. Aindra Prabhu would make a very beautiful point about the power of devotional service in Vrindavan. Aindra Prabhu would say, 1 year of devotional service in Vrindavan. Now just see the brilliance, dear devotees. From here, it's just pastimes. There is no more philosophy from here. It's just pastimes. Aindra Prabhu would say that the power of devotional service in Vrindavan is so high that 1 year of devotional service in Vrindavan is equivalent to 1,000 years of devotional service anywhere on this planet. That's a very important point, and that's a very powerful, very strong point. 1 year of devotional service in Vraj is equivalent to 1,000 years of devotional service anywhere on this planet. Now, Aindra Prabhu wouldn't stop here. Now, he was a person who would go into the math. He would go into the math calculation. Aindra Prabhu would say, he would say, how much would an average individual live? We see in Kali, an average individual lives, for example, about 80 years. So 1,000 years divided by 80 gives us about 12 and a half. Let's take about 13, which means 1 year of devotional service in Vrindavan is equivalent to 13 lifetimes of devotional service anywhere on this planet. Aindra Prabhu would say that is the power of Vrindavan Dham. Just 1 year of bhakti in Vraj Mandal is equivalent to 13 lifetimes of bhakti anywhere on this planet. He would say, who would be that person who would leave Vrindavan Dham to go somewhere else? Vrindavan has so much to offer. Just by living in Vrindavan Dham, one can make rapid advancement on this path of Krishna Bhakti. And time and again, he would quote Vrindavan Mahimamrita and Hari Bhakti Vilas to emphasize on this point of Vrindavan Dham. Likewise, in the month of Kartik, Aindra Prabhu would say, we see in the month of Kartik, we all offer ghee lamps to Damodar. But Aindra Prabhu gave a very wonderful, very brilliant trick that we can incorporate from this Kartik. Aindra Prabhu said that if in the land of Vrindavan, if we offer ghee lamps, that ghee lamp that is lit with a tulsi stick. So we find after Tulsi Devi departs, we have dried tulsi stick. So if the ghee lamp is lit with a dried tulsi stick, and if in the land of Vrindavan we offer that to Radha Damodar, then one gets 1,000,000 times the mercy, 1,000,000 times the benefit, just by lighting the ghee lamp with a tulsi stick. And this doesn't stop here, dear devotees. By lighting the ghee lamp with a tulsi stick, one gets 1,000,000 times the benefit. And as we discussed in the land of Vrindavan, one gets 1,000 times the benefit of his devotional service. And Aindra Prabhu would say, in the month of Kartik, in the month of Damodarju, one gets 160 times additional bonus, which means 1,000,000 times multiplied by 1,000 times multiplied by 160, which is equivalent to 160 billion, which means if one offers one ghee lamp, which is lit with a tulsi stick in the land of Vrindavan, that one ghee lamp will give the benefit of 160 billion ghee lamps. That is the power of the land of Vrindavan. And Aindra Prabhu would say, who would be that person who will not want to take advantage of Vrindavan? If not during other months, at least in the month of Kartik, because every ghee lamp that we show to Damodar, to Radha Shyam Sundar in Vrindavan Dham gives the benefit of 160 billion ghee lamps. You would say, who would not want to take advantage of this land? One can make leaps and bounds of spiritual progress just by residing in this land of Vrindavan Dham. Another time, a devotee, for the first time, he came to Vrindavan, and after an evening kirtan, he decided to meet Aindra Prabhu. And this is so brilliant. He went to Aindra Prabhu, and there was another devotee who was accompanying him. So that another devotee introduced that Prabhu, he's such and such devotee. And this devotee said that, Prabhu, I am Gauranga Chandra Das from Seattle. I, I know this devotee personally because he lives here in this congregation. So Prabhu was mentioning that for the first time when he went in 2009 to Vrindavan, after the evening Kirtan at about 7 o'clock, he went up to Aindra Prabhu and he said, Prabhu, I am Gauranga Chandra Das from Seattle. And when Aindra Prabhu heard this, Aindra Prabhu replied, he shot back by saying, why? Now we see this question has no answer. I mean, what would be reply for why? He just said, I am Gauranga Chandra Das from Seattle. So Aindra Prabhu said, why? So he said, Prabhu, because I met the devotees in Seattle. Aindra Prabhu said, why? Now this devotee understood that his game was up. He understood that he was speaking to a Prabhupada disciple. So he decided to not speak anything because 2 times for every reply, Aindra Prabhu was saying, why? So finally, Aindra Prabhu said, I am from Virginia and I am living in Vrindavan. Who is stopping you? You are an Indian bodied, you have an Indian passport. Why are you living outside of Vrindavan when you can have the facility of living in Vrindavan Dham? I am from Arlington, I am from Virginia, and I am living in the land of Radharani. Who is stopping you from living in the land of Srimati Radharani? So that is the reason Aindra Prabhu was asking why. Why? Which means, why are you living outside of Vrindavan? You are an Indian bodied with an Indian passport. Just live in this land of Vrindavan and make your life successful. And time and again, Aindra Prabhu would say this, that Vrindavan Dham has everything to offer. Another time, a devotee had to leave Vrindavan Dham due to some personal reasons. So he went up to Aindra Prabhu to share this news that he is leaving Vrindavan. So Aindra Prabhu called him to his room. And we know that whenever someone asks a question to Aindra Prabhu, the answer is never 5 or 10 minutes. All the answers of Aindra Prabhu are 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5 hours long. One question, Aindra Prabhu would explain for about 5 hours. So now we can imagine when this devotee went up to Aindra Prabhu to tell him that he's leaving Vrindavan Dham, Aindra Prabhu was in no mood to encourage him to leave Vrindavan Dham. On the contrary, on the flip side, Aindra Prabhu started quoting from Vrindavan Mahimamrita, from Radharas Sudhanidhi, from Hari Bhakti Vilas, from Krishna Bhavanamrita, from Govinda Leela Amrita, and from all these esoteric texts as to the glories of Vrindavan Dham, as to how this land of Vrindavan has everything, that no one needs to leave this land of Vrindavan, because in the land of Vrindavan, Radharani maintains you, Krishna maintains you. And Aindra Prabhu would make this point, reiterating Rupa Goswami, that if a black ant can be, if a black ant on a black rock in a black well on a black night can be maintained by the black Lord, then will Krishna not maintain someone who is chanting the holy names? Of course he will maintain. If a black ant who is not doing bhajan is there on a black rock in a black well on a black night, no one is able to see the black ant, but Krishna still sees the black ant. He maintains the black ant and he also nourishes that black ant. So Aindra Prabhu would say, if someone is living in the land of Radharani and is chanting her holy names, will Radharani not take care of her? Of course she will take care. It's only a question of faith. So Aindra Prabhu was trying to explain the Mahima of Vrindavan Dham as to how Braj has everything. And this answer went for quite some time, 3.5, 4 hours. And at one point, when it was late at night, about 9:30, there was a knock at Aindra Prabhu's door. So Aindra Prabhu opened the door, and it was a devotee from South Africa who had come. And this devotee from South Africa had bought a bottle of ghee to give it to Aindra Prabhu. So he said that, Prabhu, I got this bottle of ghee from South Africa so that you can use it for your deity worship. And he gave this bottle of ghee to Aindra Prabhu. And Aindra Prabhu took it. And the moment he took it, he turned towards this devotee whom he was explaining all this while. He said, you see, in the land of Vrindavan, in the land of Radharani, Srimati Radharani maintains you. And Aindra Prabhu went inside and he showed that only the previous day, his bottle of ghee had got completely over. The bottle of ghee had completely got over, and Aindra Prabhu he had forgotten about it. But Radharani remembered, and she sent a devotee from South Africa to give a bottle of ghee, a new bottle of ghee to Sripad Aindra Prabhu. So Aindra Prabhu looked to this devotee and said, you see, I did not even make an endeavor. I did not even tell anyone. But in this land of Vrindavan, Radharani knows our heart's desire and she will fulfill everything. Our material desires, our spiritual desires in this land of Vrindavan, everything is fulfilled. So just live in this land of Vrindavan. And sure enough, this devotee did not leave Vrindavan. He had made all plans to leave Braja, but after that interaction with Aindra Prabhu, he did not leave Vrindavan. And I wouldn't take names, but this devotee is a very famous Kirtaniya in our Krishna consciousness movement. Just by that interaction of Aindra Prabhu, he never left the land of Srimati Radharani. And if we think this is all, Aindra Prabhu was such a devotee who would go the extra mile to show Krishna that he was very serious on this path of Krishna Bhakti, that he would worship the trees of Vrindavan. Now, this is something that is unimaginable, worshipping the trees of Vrindavan. But Aindra Prabhu would actually worship the trees of Vrindavan because he would say that Prabodhananda Saraswati in Vrindavan Mahimamrita, Prabodhananda Saraswati makes this point that by worshipping the trees of Vrindavan, the trees of Vrindavan benedict us to eternally live in the land of Vrindavan. This is the power of the trees of Vraja. So Aindra Prabhu would say that I do not want to miss out on an opportunity of not living in Vrindavan. So he would worship the trees, he would water the lotus feet of the trees only with this desire that he never leaves the land of Vrindavan. And very jokingly, very funny, in a very funny fashion, Aindra Prabhu would say that everyone takes 3 danda sannyas. We see sannyasis, they have a 3 danda sannyas. So Aindra Prabhu would say everyone takes a 3 danda sannyas, but I have taken 3 danda sannyas because I'm worshipping the trees of Vrindavan Dham. So in this way, Aindra Prabhu would make every endeavor to not only convince others of the glories of Vrindavan Dham, but he would also inspire them to take the residence of Vraj Dham. And this is actual definition of a Vrajavasi given by Shukadev Goswami in Canto 10. So in every manner, Aindra Prabhu was a genuine Vrajavasi, inspiring everyone and motivating them on this path of Krishna Bhakti by taking up the residence of Vrindavan Dham. And we naturally find anyone who's attracted to Vrindavan is also attracted to Giriraj. Seldom do we find that a devotee is attracted to Braj but has no attraction to Giriraj. Everyone dearly loves Giriraj because he's the mukut, he's the crown of Vrajadham. Like we find Sripad Raghunath Das Goswami, he says, Pramada Madana Leela Kandare Kandare Te Rachayati Navayuno Dvandvamasminna Lagnam Idi Kila Kalanartha Lagnakasta Dvayor Me Nija Nikata Nivasam Dehi Govardhanatvam. Sripad Raghunath Das Goswami says, Nija Nikata Nivasam Dehi Govardhanatvam. O Giriraji, my only desire is, may I always live at your foothill. I do not want anything. I just want to live at your foothill. That is my only desire, O Giriraj. And likewise, we find in the life of Sripad Aindra Prabhu, for him, Giriraji was very dear to his heart. Once Srila Prabhupada came in the dream of Sripad Aindra Prabhu and requested him to worship Krishna in the mood of Gopal. Prabhupada came in the dream of Sripad Aindra Prabhu and asked him that, O Aindra Prabhu, please worship Krishna in the mood of Gopal. And Aindra Prabhu, who was worshipping a Giriraji, he named his Giriraji as Giridhari Gopal Sham, because Prabhupada wanted him to worship Krishna in the mood of Gopal. He named his Giriraji as Giridhari Gopal Sham. And to the right top corner, we find there is a photo of Giriraji, and that is the deity, dear devotees, of Giridhari Gopal Sham that Aindra Prabhu worshipped throughout his 24 years in Vrindavan Dham. So it's a very interesting point that even if our spiritual master has departed this world, if the disciple is sincere, then the spiritual master will still come and give instructions through dreams and through revelations. Sripad Aindra Prabhu describes that in the 1990s, he would be so eager to go to the bed, not because he was sleepy, but because when he would go to sleep, he would get tons and tons of spiritual realizations. Prabhupada would come in his dream and give so many realizations that he would be so eager. I think someone's mic is on. If you can just mute. Thank you. So Prabhupada would come in the dream of Sripad Aindra Prabhu and give him so many realizations that Aindra Prabhu would be keen on going to the bed every single day. So this is a point, dear devotees, that even if our spiritual master has left this world, there is nothing to be sad because a Sadguru is always present. If the disciple is sincere, then the Guru can still sow the seed of spiritual realizations in the heart, just like Prabhupada gave realizations in the heart of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. Likewise, Sripad Aindra Prabhu would make this point that what is the power of taking darshan of Giriraj? Aindra Prabhu would say that of all the devotional activities that are performed, the path of following Ekadashis, the tapasya of following Ekadashi is the highest. Why? Because Ekadashis give us pure devotional service, pure bhakti, prema bhakti. We find yesterday we celebrated the holy occasion of Ekadashi, Papa Mochini Ekadashi. And Aindra Prabhu would make this point that by following Ekadashis, one gets pure devotional service, prema bhakti. And Nirjala Ekadashi that is there, that even supersedes all other Ekadashis. Why? Because Nirjala Ekadashi has the benefit of all the 23 Ekadashis and that Ekadashi itself, which means by following one Nirjala Ekadashi, one gets the benefit of 24 Ekadashis. That is the power of Nirjala Ekadashi. But now Aindra Prabhu didn't stop here. He went on glorifying exponentially. He said, by fasting, the half-day fast of Ramanavami, the half-day fast that we do on the occasion of Ramanavami, we find in another 10, 15 days, we are going to celebrate the occasion of Ramanavami. Indra Prabhu said, by fasting half-day on Ramanavami, one gets the benefit of performing 1,000 vratas of Nirjala Ekadashi. Just that half day of Ramanavami gives the benefit of following 1,000 Nirjala Ekadashis. And by following the fast on Narsingha Chaturdashi, we find in the month of May, we will be celebrating Narsingha Chaturdashi. And we fast till evening, till dusk. Indra Prabhu said, just by following Narsingha Chaturdashi's fast till the evening, one gets the benefit of following about 10,000 Ram Navami fasts. Just by observing one Narsingha Chaturdashi fast, one gets the benefit of following 10,000 Rama Navami fast. And then Aindra Prabhu continued by saying, but if someone follows Janmashtami fast till midnight, one gets the benefit of following 1 million Ram Navami fasts. That one fast that we do on the night of Krishna Janmashtami till midnight, one gets the benefit of 1 million Ramanavamis. And finally, Aindra Prabhu concluded by saying, but just by taking one darshan of Giriraj, one gets the benefit of millions upon millions upon millions upon millions Ram Navamis. Just by taking one darshan of Giriraj. He said, this is the power of Giriraj. Just by taking one darshan of him, one gets the benefit of millions upon millions Ram Navami. So he would say that who would be that person who will come to Vrindavan and not take shelter of Giriraj? And this is the reason we find even Rupa Goswami Nectar of Instruction, when he gives the hierarchy, he places Giriraj over the land of Vrindavan. Because this land of Giriraj, this Giriraj, who is the best among servants, Haridasa Varya, can give so much benefit to us just by taking one darshan. So in this way, Indra Prabhu would encourage everyone to develop their attraction toward Giriraj. Once a devotee, once Sripad Aindra Prabhu, in fact, asked the devotee to get eye drops for him because Aindra Prabhu had something in his eye, some issue in his eye. So the doctor had asked him to buy eye drops. So he asked the devotee to go and buy that eye drops. And in fact, that devotee is there on the call, whom Aindra Prabhu had asked to go and buy that eye drops. So he went and bought that eye drops and he gave it to Aindra Prabhu. And Aindra Prabhu opened the eye drops, and instead of putting it in his own eye, Aindra Prabhu would wear a locket of Giriraj. So Aindra Prabhu took that eye drops, and instead of putting it in his own eye, he put it on the eyes of Giriraj, the locket that he was wearing. Aindra Prabhu put it in the eyes of Giriraj and looked at this devotee and said, I don't take anything that is not offered to Krishna. Prabhupada says everything has to be taken after being offered to Krishna. Even the eye drops. Aindra Prabhu was so exalted that he would offer that eye drops to his Giriraj and say, I don't take anything that is not offered to Krishna. And after he put it to Giriraj, then he offered it in his own eyes. So actually living the philosophy that Prabhupada has taught, that everything has to be taken after being offered to the Supreme Lord. And similarly, as we mentioned, Aindra Prabhu would wear a locket of Giriraj. It would always be close to his chest. So Aindra Prabhu would in a very funny fashion, in a very joking way, Aindra Prabhu would say that the reason I go to Giriraj is because he would take his locket Giriraj and he would place it on the big rocks of Giriraj. And he would say, now my Giriraj is completely recharged. He would say that I go to Giriraj so that my locket Giriraj gets recharged. He would keep the locket on the big rocks of Giriraj, and he would say, now the recharge is being happening. Now my Giriraj is getting recharged. And he would just chuckle and he would just smile. So Aindra Prabhu would have this very funny, very interesting one-liners that would make people crack. People would burst into laughter. He would place his locket Giriraj on the big rocks of Giriraj and say, now he's getting recharged. Please do not disturb. So in this way, Aindra Prabhu was very, very difficult to understand. It's a very interesting point, dear devotees, that to understand Aindra Prabhu, we have to love him. Till the time we don't love Aindra Prabhu, till that time we may not be able to understand his mood. It is very easy to find faults and very easy to criticize Sripada Aindra Prabhu. But for those who really genuinely love him, can really understand every act or everything that Prabhu says. Now this is very interesting. In the background we find there's a clock. And this clock we find has only numbers, but has no hour hand, no minute hand, and no second hand. And this is a clock that is there even till this date in Sripada Aindra Prabhu's room. Now we would be surprised and we would be perplexed as to how does this clock serve the purpose? Aindra Prabhu's mood was, because he was living in the land of Vrindavan, Aindra Prabhu would say that in Vrindavan there is no concept of time. There is no concept of time in Vrindavan Dham, and it is for this reason Aindra Prabhu ripped apart the hours hands, the seconds hand, the minutes hands. He ripped apart everything, because in the land of Vrindavan there is no concept of time. And the second understanding that Aindra Prabhu had was 24 hours is too less for devotional service. There is so much devotional service that needs to be done that if there is time concept, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, then we are all bound by time. But Aindra Prabhu said that if there is no time, if I remove the seconds hand and the hours hand and the minute hand, then I can do devotional service 24 hours a day and I am not bound by time. So for this reason, he just ripped apart the hours and the minutes and the seconds hand and said there is no concept of time. Devotional service, 24 hours is very less for performing bhakti, for performing prema bhakti. This is so interesting. The next time we go to Aindra Prabhu's room, we can find this clock. They have still kept it. And he would be so funny and he would have this so witty one-liners that another time a temple president in the 1990s, he came up to Aindra Prabhu, because we find Aindra Prabhu would have a different style of dressing. You see, he would dress like the local Brajavasis, especially if we find that the pujaris of Radha Raman, they wear a cloth which goes this way and which goes this way, and it is tied in the neck and the back is completely exposed. So Aindra Prabhu would have that way of dressing up. So one day in the 1990s, one temple president came up to Aindra Prabhu and asked him that, Prabhu, which ashram do you belong to? Because his dressing was such that it didn't look like a brahmachari, didn't neither look like a grahastha, neither looked like a vanaprastha, and definitely didn't look like a sannyasi. So this temple president went up to Aindra Prabhu and asked, Prabhu, which ashram do you belong to? And Aindra Prabhu was so witty and he was so funny. Aindra Prabhu said, I'm not a brahmachari, I'm not a grahastha, I'm not a vanaprastha, and I'm not a sannyasi. But in fact, I am a brahmastha vanyasi. He just clubbed all the four ashrams and he said, I'm a brahmastha vanyasi. So in this way, Aindra Prabhu would come up with these beautiful one-liners that would just make people laugh and would help people appreciate the greatness that he has after living in this land of Vrindavan by chanting the holy name. So many times he would come up with these beautiful one-liners, but there are instances where Sripad Aindra Prabhu has been very heavy like a thunderbolt. We find that this is the mood of a devotee. Vajradapi kathoram, kusumadapi sukomalam. A sadhu is someone who is as soft as a lotus and as heavy as a thunderbolt. So we saw few instances very soft as a lotus, but there are few instances, dear devotees, where Aindra Prabhu has been as heavy as a thunderbolt. In the early years of 2000, there was one brahmachari who was living next door to Sripad Aindra Prabhu. Aindra Prabhu was living in room number 89, and this devotee was living in room number 90 or 91. And Aindra Prabhu would have this habit that he would walk in the corridor and he would keep chanting his japa. So one day when he was chanting his japa in the corridor, from room number 90, where this brahmachari was there, Aindra Prabhu could hear something. So Aindra Prabhu knocked the door, and this devotee opened the door, and it was Aindra Prabhu was standing outside, and Aindra Prabhu was fuming. He was fuming with anger, and he just barged into the room of this brahmachari. And actually what had happened is this devotee, this brahmachari, was hearing to a cassette of a Mataji sing. So Mataji was leading the Hare Krishna chanting, and this brahmachari was hearing. So Aindra Prabhu went inside and looked around where that CD was or where that cassette was, and he found out, and he broke that CD into two halves. And this devotee didn't know what to say. He was completely surprised. He didn't know what is going on. Aindra Prabhu just stormed inside and broke that CD into two halves. And Aindra Prabhu said that if you even hear a Mataji sing, if you even hear a Mataji's voice, then your brahmachari vrata will go for a toss. Because Maya is so powerful that even she wants little space, little crack in our consciousness, and Maya just seeps in. So Aindra Prabhu said, if you hear a Mataji even singing, your brahmachari tapasya will go for a toss. So Aindra Prabhu broke that CD, and then he went to his own room and got a CD and gave it in the hands of this devotee and said, if you want to hear something, hear this. And interestingly, that CD was Vrindavan Mellows, which Aindra Prabhu himself had sung. So Aindra Prabhu said, if you want to hear something, hear my Kirtan, hear Vrindavan Mellows, but don't hear a Mataji sing. So much care and so much compassion, but at the same time, heavy as a thunderbolt. Another instance, after the morning Bhagavatam class was over, as we find 9 o'clock Bhagavatam class is done, and immediately after that, the 24-hour Kirtan starts. So one time it so happened that the Bhagavatam class was done, and this devotee was about to lead the Kirtan. Everything was ready, but somehow he had not started his Kirtan. And just a few minutes had passed. So Aindra Prabhu somehow happened to be in the temple that time. And when Aindra Prabhu saw this, in front of everyone in Krishna Balaram Mandir, Aindra Prabhu chastised him. Aindra Prabhu just blasted that devotee by saying, you are embarrassing me in front of my god brothers. All my god brothers are present here, and the Bhagavatam class is done, and you have not even started the 24-hour Kirtan. You are embarrassing me in front of everyone. And this was in front of 100, 150 devotees in Krishna Balaram Mandir. So many times Aindra Prabhu would be very heavy as far as standards are concerned. 24 hours means 24 hours, no stopping. It has to be Akhanda Kirtan Mandali. Another time, there was a devotee who, who had become Krishna conscious. He and his brother both were Krishna conscious. And somehow or the other, they couldn't convince their father to become Krishna conscious. Because many times we find that familiarity breeds contempt, that we may be Krishna conscious, but somehow or the other, our near and dear ones may not take up this path of Krishna bhakti. So this devotee tried to convince his father multiple times, but somehow it didn't work. So he thought to himself that I am inspired by Sripad Aindra Prabhu. So let me take my father to Sripad Aindra Prabhu and let Sripad Aindra Prabhu speak to my father. Now this was a big thing because we know Aindra Prabhu can be very heavy. He can be very heavy like a thunderbolt. So this devotee, he took his father to Sripad Aindra Prabhu. And Aindra Prabhu, dear devotees, just made one point. He didn't give a Bhagavatam class. He just made one point. And that one point was so powerful that the father of this devotee ended up becoming a Krishna Bhakta. And we will be very keen and very eager to know what Aindra Prabhu said. Aindra Prabhu just made one statement. Aindra Prabhu said, if Putra not a Bhakta, he is a Mutra. Which means if the son is not Krishna conscious, then he is a waste. If Putra not a Bhakta, then he is a Mutra. And that father who was not very inclined towards Krishna consciousness, when he heard this from Aindra Prabhu, he started nodding. He said, yes, you are correct. Putra has to be Krishna conscious. And he encouraged his children to take up this path. And what to speak of the children, he himself accepted this path of Krishna Bhakti. And dear devotees, this is real example of Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha. Just fraction of a second association of a Mahabhagavat and his father became a Krishna Bhakta. Very interesting point. If Putra not a Bhakta, he is a Mutra. He is a waste. Another instance, a young couple, they were about to get engaged or they had just got engaged. And they went up to Aindra Prabhu to share this news and to get his blessings. So that when they went to Aindra Prabhu to tell Prabhu that Prabhu, we are about to get engaged or we have got engaged. Now, what would the general reaction be? The general reaction would be, we would expect Aindra Prabhu to say, oh, very nice, congratulations, I pray for you, I give you my blessings, and so on and so forth. But Aindra Prabhu was very different. When Aindra Prabhu heard this, Aindra Prabhu became so angry. He became so furious. He was fuming with anger and he looked straight into the eye of the Prabhuji. And this is probably as heavy it can get. They had just got engaged and Aindra Prabhu looked into the eye of Prabhuji and he said, even the dog sees the eye of the dog beautiful. How better are you? Which means even the dog sees a female dog beautiful. How better are you? You have got a Manushya Jivan. You have got a human life. You're in Vrindavan Dham and you're doing the same thing that the dogs are doing. How better are you? And then he turned towards the Mataji and gave her a stick in her hand. And he said, make sure this rascal doesn't touch you. And he gave the stick and said, if at all he touches you, make sure you whip him with this stick. Because he has no adhikar to touch you. You are eternally married to Krishna. You eternally belong to Krishna. Make sure this rascal never touches you. And Aindra Prabhu gave that stick in our hand. And dear devotees, they are just about to get engaged. And we can imagine how heavy that can be. But they took it in the right perspective. Why? Because they loved Aindra Prabhu. This is the point, dear devotees. Till the time we have not developed genuine love for Aindra Prabhu, we may not understand his mood. And Aindra Prabhu knew exactly, only for those who dearly loved Aindra Prabhu would be heavy with them. So there are a few instances this way where Aindra Prabhu was Vajradapi Kathoram, very strong as a thunderbolt. So it's 9:10 here, Pacific, which means it is about 12 o'clock, 12:10 in the East Coast. I just want to know from the devotees, I want to beg for about 10 to 15 minutes extra so that I can wrap up. There are some very beautiful, interesting pastimes that are yet to come. If devotees can grant me another 10 to 15 minutes, not more, then we can wrap up this discussion.
Yes, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mataji. As we know, Aindra Prabhu's life was Harinam Sankirtan. Nam Sankirtan was the life of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. And not just Sripad Aindra Prabhu, it is the life and soul of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. It is the backbone of our Krishna consciousness movement. So in 2011, this is my personal interaction in 2011 of April, exactly a decade ago, when I went to Vrindavan and when I was in Aindra Prabhu's room, I heard something that stuck with me and probably something that I will never forget in my life. The devotee whom I met, he made such a brilliant point. He said, he was from Russia. He said, Prabhu, I was living a life in Russia and I was into all types of intoxications. He said, all types of intoxications that are there on the list, I had ticked all the boxes. LSD, drugs, this, that, all the intoxications, I had ticked all of them. There was probably nothing in the list that I had not consumed. All the intoxicants I had consumed. He said, later someone told me that there is a very, very nice, profound musician who was there in Vrindavan. And he was telling me that I didn't know where Vrindavan is, but they just told me that 3 hours from Delhi is a place called Vrindavan. And there a very beautiful, proficient, musically inclined singer is there who can charm the hearts and who can transform the life. So why don't you take a flight from Russia and go to Vrindavan just to meet him once? So this person who was a hardcore intoxicant who had taken all types of intoxications, he decided to take his flight from Russia, from Moscow. He came to Delhi, and from Delhi, he took his car to Vrindavan Dham. And when he reached Vrindavan Dham, he freshened up, and in the evening, Aindra Prabhu stormed into Krishna Balaram Mandir like the golden lion. Just like you find when the lion comes into the forest, naturally there is silence. There is complete silence because everyone is in awe of seeing the lion. And naturally we find when Aindra Prabhu would come into the temple, devotees would just move to the side just to have one glimpse of Sripad Aindra Prabhu, who was like the lion. We find towards the right also, there is the coppered beard that he has and this copper hair that he has. He looks almost like a lion who's ready to roar in Krishna Balaram Mandir. This was a typical Kartik look that Sripad Aindra Prabhu would have. So this devotee came to Krishna Balaram Mandir. He was fresh, and in the evening, when Aindra Prabhu came to Kirtan, he decided to attend Aindra Prabhu's Kirtan. And during those days, towards the end, Aindra Prabhu would do Kirtan only from 6:30 to 7. Last 30 minutes, Aindra Prabhu would leave the Kirtan. And here comes the interesting point, dear devotees. When the devotee told me, I literally had goosebumps in my hand. The devotee told me, he said, Prabhu, those 30 minutes of Kirtan was the most powerful intoxicant I ever had in my life. He literally had tears in his eyes. He was saying that, Prabhu, I had taken all top types of intoxications, but that 30 minutes of Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans was the most powerful intoxicant. I had never witnessed an intoxication as powerful as Aindra Prabhu's Kirtan. And what is the transformation? He left Russia. He left all the intoxications. And in 2011, when I was there, he was serving as a brahmachari in Krishna Balaram Mandir. He was serving the deities of Aindra Prabhu. Just by hearing 30 minutes of Kirtan of Aindra Prabhu, this is the transformation, dear devotees. And hardcore intoxicant can get transformed into a brahmachari. So we all definitely have hope. This is the point I would want to make here, that if we are not hearing Sripad Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans, then we are surely missing a burst of ecstasy in our lives. Because Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans can really transform lives. To all the parents who are there on this call, if our children are not taking up to this path of Krishna Bhakti due to different reasons, then please play the Kirtans of Aindra Prabhu for 6 to 8 months or maximum to 1 year. It is my guarantee it is my guarantee that after 1 year, all of them would be chanting the holy names. And why do I say so? Because the place where I am there in Seattle, the youth who are there, aged from 8 till about 20, none of them were chanting the holy names as far as Nam Japa is concerned 1 year back. But in the last 1 year, they have heard so much about Aindra Prabhu that every youth here in Seattle chants 16 rounds. Every youth, even the small kids. So much so that now the spring break is going on and the kids chant 32 and 40 and 48 rounds just by hearing the Kirtans of Aindra Prabhu. So to all the parents, this is my humble 2 cents that if our kids are not very serious on this path, please play the Kirtans of Aindra Prabhu. It is my guarantee that they will take up this path of Krishna Bhakti. And for those devotees who are already there in this moment and who are chanting 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles, the Kirtans of Aindra Prabhu will help us give an additional boost, will give us that intensity, that thirst, that eagerness that is required to get Krishna in this lifetime. And sure enough, as the devotee said, Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans are the most powerful intoxicant that one can ever come across. Another time, a devotee, he had just given birth to a small child. So the Prabhuji went up to Aindra Prabhu to get blessings for his child. And Aindra Prabhu at that time was cooking, so his hands were dirty. So Aindra Prabhu said, how can I bless? My hands are dirty. So this devotee said that, Prabhu, your hands can never be dirty. Your hands are lotus hands. Please bless him. So then Aindra Prabhu, with that same hands, he kept his hand on the head of the small child and he said, may you become a fired up Kirtaniya. Because without becoming a fired up Kirtaniya, there is no hope in this world. There is no hope in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is so dark that without being fired up, without having that fire, without having that intensity, there is no hope in this dark age. So this is not just a blessing, dear devotees, but this is an instruction probably to everyone that Harinam Sankirtan is meant for everyone and it is the backbone of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's movement. And Krishna Bhakti means getting fired up, having that intensity, that thirst, that greed to get Krishna, which Aindra Prabhu had. And likewise, another time, one devotee in evening was leading Kirtan in the temple. And Aindra Prabhu from behind was watching this devotee lead the Kirtan. And after the Kirtan was done, Aindra Prabhu turned to him and in a very joking way, in a very funny fashion, Aindra Prabhu turned to him and said, you can copy my melodies, but you can't copy my bhav. You can't copy my consciousness. Sure enough, you can copy my melodies, but you can't copy my bhav. You can't copy my consciousness. And this is a very interesting point that we find so many devotees across this world, they all chant Aindra Prabhu's melodies. But Aindra Prabhu was making this point here that in order to resonate with my consciousness, what is required is purity. As Prabhupada says, purity is the force. And Aindra Prabhu literally had that purity in his heart, because of which he could transform multiple lives. So Aindra Prabhu, in a very funny fashion, he said, you can copy my melodies, but you can copy my bhav, you can copy my consciousness. And not just Nam Sankirtan, dear devotees, Aindra Prabhu had beautiful realizations even as far as the holy name is concerned. Of course, we do not have time to go through both the realizations that I've written it down, but there is one that I really want to share here. Aindra Prabhu would say that the holy name that we chant is filled with Gauranga Nam. All the names that we have in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the form of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Aindra Prabhu would say, every name is nothing but Gaur Nam. How? Now he would also explain it. He would say, first is Hare. What is Hare? We find Hare is the vocative case in Sanskrit, but the root word is Hari. From Hari comes Hare. So Aindra Prabhu would say, the root word is Hari, but who is that Hari? That Hari is Krishna. But who is that Krishna? He is Gaur, is Gauranga, which means Hare can be replaced with Gaur. And then we have Krishna. We say Hare Krishna. Who is that Krishna? Krishna is again Gaur, which means Hare can be replaced with Gaur and Krishna can also be replaced with Gaur. Now comes the second line. In the second line, we have Hare Rama. So Hare is again Gaur and Rama. So Ram here has two understandings. One is Raghupati Ram, but the more Gaudiya understanding is the Ram means Radhika Raman, that Krishna who gives happiness to the heart of Srimati Radharani. So who is Radhika Raman? He is Krishna, which means that Ram is nothing but Krishna and that Krishna is nothing but Gaur, which means Hare is Gaur, Krishna is Gaur and Rama is also Gaur. And now Aindra would say, now replace Hare with Gaur, Krishna with Gaur and Rama with Gaur. What we get is Gaur, 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 Gaur. He would say, you look, you see, the whole Hare Krishna Mahamantra is just filled with Gaur Nam. It is only filled with Gauranga Nam. And likewise, he would also say that Hare is nothing but Gadhai. So he would say, Gadhai Gaur, Gadhai Gaur, 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 Gadhai, Gadhai. And the second line would become Rama is Nitai. So he would say Gaur Nitai, Gaur Nitai, 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 Gaur, Gaur, Gadai, Gaur, Gadai, Gaur, 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 Gadai, Gadai, Gaur Nitai, Gaur Nitai, 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 Gaur, Gaur. So Indrabu would say that based on our advancement, we can understand that the holy name has Gaurnam, it has the name of Gadadhar, and actually Indrabu also gives a very beautiful understanding as to why we chant Hare Krishna and not Radhe Krishna. But I think in the interest of time, we will not be able to cover that. But here we find down below is the most auspicious bead bag of Shripad Aindra Prabhu. That bead bag that opened up the doors of Golok Vrindavan for Shripad Aindra Prabhu. We are very fortunate that we are able to take darshan of the bead bag of Shripad Aindra Prabhu. And towards the right, we find he has written a very beautiful note that is still present outside his door. So Aindra Prabhu would have various notes like this and he would stick it outside his door. And here in this note, we find Aindra Prabhu was writing, if you have not completed your required daily 16 rounds of Harinam, then you should know that you have no more important service to your Guru and your Guru Parampara than to finish your Japa Vrata. Even if you think you have finished your Nam Bhajan, then please mercifully leave me alone. For now, so I may hope to sooner improve mine. Your servant Aindra Das. Such a powerful, such a strong statement that there is nothing greater than our 16 rounds of holy name. That is the most important limb that we should be doing, especially in Brahma Muhurta. And Aindra would have various quotes like this he would put out, and some quotes are there where he would put the skull and the cross and he would say, don't disturb, do not disturb, Nam Bhajan in progress, please do not disturb. And he would get really angry when someone would disturb him when he would chant the holy names. So this is an inspiration that we all can take from the life of Aindra Prabhu, that there is nothing in Kali that supersedes the chanting of the holy names. Every single thing is secondary. It is subordinate to the holy names. But Nam is the ultimate. And this is also the point that Jiva Goswami makes in Sandarbhas, that all the other devotional activities that are there, they act as supporting limbs to the holy name. But the holy name is the mukut, it's the crest jewel of all the devotional activities. So in this way, Aindra Prabhu would have very strong points about holy name and very strong realizations about Harinam Prabhu. And here we find Golok Vrindavan in front of our eyes. For those who have not realized Golok Vrindavan, at least speaking for myself, I have no realization whatsoever. Shripad Aindra Prabhu, in a very important way and very emphatic way, Aindra Prabhu once said, to the right we find Aindra Prabhu says, my room is Navadvip. My room is not different from Nitya Navadvip in the spiritual world. Navadvip means Goloka, and my room is Goloka. And anyone who doubts it is a fool. So there is no ambiguity of doubting. Anyone who doubts it is a fool. Non-different from Goloka. My room is not different from Navadvip Dham. Gaur Nitai are really there. They are real. They are the lords of Nitya Navadvip. Try to understand. As much as Navadvip is not different from Vrindavan Dham, so Vrindavan Dham is not different from Navadvip Dham. It is a question of the position of the heart. You are performing Sankirtan Yagya for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda in Vrindavan Dham. You will be remembering Navadvip Dham. And to the left, we find, dear devotees, this is that glorious room of Sripad Aindra Prabhu, which is still present in the Brahmachari ashram. You see, when we enter, to the right, we find a big tree. That's a tamal tree that Aindra Prabhu would worship. As we discussed in the start, Aindra Prabhu would say that by worshipping the trees benedict us to eternally live in Brajadham. And that is the tamal tree he would worship. And straight ahead, we find the lords of his life, Gauranga Nityananda, called as Nitai Sachi Suta. And not just this, dear devotees, Aindra Prabhu would worship thousands and thousands of Shaligram. He would have Radharani deity. He would have Nitai Gauranga. He would have Giridhari Gopal Sham, as we discussed. He would have small Gaurnita deities that he got from Brooklyn. He would have Ananga Manjari deity. Ananga Manjari was the life and soul of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. So in this way, his altar was completely packed. And if this is fascinating, dear devotees, the icing on the cake is Sripad Aindra Prabhu would cook on his own. He would never eat from the temple. He was so renounced that he would cook on his own, he would eat on his own, no depending on anyone. So every day he would spend about 4.5 hours of deity worship, massaging and oiling every single shaligram, watering every single shaligram, decorating and dressing his deities, cooking for them, bathing them, so on and so forth. Every day, 4.5 hours of deity worship, chanting minimum 64 rounds of Harinam Japa, serving Harinam Sankirtan in the temple, weekends dressing Radha Shamsundar in the temple, motivating and inspiring others on this path of Krishna Bhakti. And the list goes on and on, dear devotees. But we find that sadhus, when they come in this world, they also display their antilila pastimes when they have to finally depart this world. And this is the most heartbreaking for any devotee, especially for those who have been with Aindra Prabhu and those who have loved Aindra Prabhu dearly. Aindra Prabhu's departure is always very heartbreaking. But Aindra Prabhu gave various indications of his departure. Once a devotee was going to Loi Bazaar, and he requested Aindra Prabhu that, Prabhu, would you also want to come with me to Loi Bazaar? Because this devotee was going to buy dress for his deities. So when Aindra Prabhu heard, he said, well, no, probably you can go ahead. So this devotee said, Prabhu, why don't you come? You can also see some deities for your Gaur Nitai. So when Aindra Prabhu heard this, he said, okay, I will also accompany you. And both of them in cycle rickshaw, they went to Loi Bazaar. And when this devotee was searching for dress, Aindra Prabhu was also looking for the dress for his Gaur Nitai. But somehow his attention got shifted to a nearby bookstore. And Aindra Prabhu immediately went to that bookstore and was seeing various books. And finally, when this devotees, when he had done with purchasing deity dresses, he came back to Aindra Prabhu and he saw Aindra Prabhu was reading some book. So he was naturally curious to know what book Aindra Prabhu was reading. So he was thinking to himself, maybe it is Govinda Lilamrita, maybe it is Krishna Karunamrita, maybe it is Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi, some very exalted book, because Aindra Prabhu was of that stature. So he was curious to know what book Aindra Prabhu was reading. So he asked Aindra Prabhu that, Prabhu, which book is this? And Aindra Prabhu replied, you won't understand. So this devotee became more curious. He said, Prabhu, at least let me know what the name is. Aindra Prabhu said, no, you won't understand. So then this devotee asked Aindra Prabhu repeatedly, Prabhu, please tell me what the name of the book is. Prabhu, please tell me what the name of the book is. And then finally, Aindra Prabhu turned the book and he showed the cover page. And dear devotees, the cover page read, different hairstyles for women. This was the cover page of that book and Aindra Prabhu was reading it. So this devotee was perplexed. He said, different hairstyles for women? He was perplexed. And Aindra Prabhu said, I told you, you will not understand. And then finally, Aindra Prabhu said, I am preparing for my next life. That's it. He said, I am preparing for my next life. And that is the reason I'm going through this book. And the book read different hairstyles for women. So Aindra Prabhu was actually demonstrating that he is none other than Radharani's dear maid servant in the mood of a Manjari. Another time, a German devotee was giving a class on book distribution. It was the month of book distribution marathon. And he was inspiring everyone that, oh, you should go out and distribute books. This is the month of book distribution, and so on and so forth. He was trying to inspire everyone with his Bruhad Murdanga Transcendental book distribution. But at the end of his discussion, he made a point. He said that those devotees who don't go out in this month of December to distribute books, they are like women who are just sitting at home. Now, this was a point that was maybe controversial. So he said that those who are not going outside to distribute books, they are like women. And Aindra Prabhu was standing behind near the Tulsi. And Aindra Prabhu put his hand up and he said, well, in Vrindavan, we don't mind being a woman. We would love to be a woman in Vrindavan. Which means Aindra Prabhu was giving a hint of his spiritual swarup, of his Manjari Bhav. In a very funny fashion, he put his hand up and said, in Vrindavan, we don't mind being a woman. We would love to be a woman in Vrindavan. And likewise, on another instance, there was a brahmachari who was having doubts of his ashram, whether to be a grahastha, whether to remain a brahmachari. He was completely confused. So he went up to Aindra Prabhu. And as we discussed that Aindra Prabhu's answers would be 3.5, 4.5 hours long. So Aindra Prabhu, when he heard this, that this devotee was in dilemma of the ashram, Aindra Prabhu gave a long answer, quoting different shastras and so many other scriptures. And he was convincing him to stay in this ashram of brahmachari. And then finally, Aindra Prabhu said, he said, if you want to associate with the women, if you want to associate with a lady, you associate with me. I will show you what real womanhood is. He said, I will show you what real womanhood is. You don't associate with the ladies of this world. You associate with me. I will fulfill your heart's desire. I will show you what real womanhood is. So time and again, Aindra Prabhu was demonstrating this point that he is none other than Radharani's dear maid servant in the spiritual world. So he would give this indication of his departure. And finally, dear devotees, on the 16th of July, 2010, 11 years ago, on the night of 16 July, when Aindra Prabhu was lighting, when he was getting ready to cook for his deities, which he would do at night, unfortunately, Prabhuji did not realize that there is a gas leak in his room. So when he was about to light the fire, because there was a gas leak in the room, the whole room, dear devotees, went up in flames. The whole room went up in flames, and there was smoke completely. And as we know that when there is smoke, the smoke naturally consumes the oxygen that is there. So breathing becomes a difficulty. We start choking because the smoke starts consuming oxygen. And Aindra Prabhu could not exit his room because his room had 3 doors. There was a normal door, there was a mosquito net door, and then there was a recording door that he had imported from New York, a soundproof door. So even though Aindra Prabhu was banging on the door, people could not hear because it was a soundproof door. And all the brahmacharis had gone to sleep. It's so heartbreaking, dear devotees. All brahmacharis had gone to sleep, and Aindra Prabhu here was knocking the door and no one could hear. And his room was up in fire. It was up in flames. And at that instance, dear devotees, Shripad Aindra Prabhu decided to take shelter of his Gaurnitai. When he saw that there is nothing else for him to get out of this room, Aindra Prabhu decided to take shelter of his Gauranga and Nityananda. And he went behind Nityananda Prabhu and offered his obeisances. And in that obeisances mood, Aindra Prabhu left this body. We find Krishna, he says that man mana bhavamad bhakto madhya jimam namaskuru. He says, think about me and offer your respectful obeisances to me. And here Shripad Aindra Prabhu in his departure is not only thinking about Krishna, he is even demonstrating it through his actions. The next day morning, dear devotees, when they broke open the door, the whole room was filled with smoke because there was no window in Aindra Prabhu's room that could let out the smoke. The whole room was filled with smoke, and they were trying to settle the smoke, and they were saying, Aindra Prabhu, are you there? Aindra Prabhu, are you there? Prabhu, where are you? Are you there? And when the smoke settled down, dear devotees, it had been more than 10 hours after Aindra Prabhu's departure, and Aindra Prabhu was still offering his obeisances to his Nityananda Ram. He was found offering his obeisances to Nityananda Prabhu in the morning. It had been hours after his departure, but his body was still giving obeisances to Nityananda Prabhu. This is so inspiring and so motivating, dear devotees. When we are cooking, our hands sometimes get burnt, and immediately we look for water, or we look for haldi or any of those things. But I think seldom do we remember the Supreme Lord or his holy names. And here is a devotee amidst fire, amidst flames, is giving obeisances to Nityananda Prabhu and saying that, my dear Lord, I have given my life to you. You protect me. You maintain me. And we find this is how that night looked. We find to the top right, dear devotees, to the top right, we find that the whole room is completely burnt. We see the door and the whole, everything is completely filled with black. It's because of the smoke, and the door is completely burnt. So there was no question of Aindra Prabhu leaving the room. And we find that everything around is completely black, and devotees are trying to color it, and they're trying to remove the smoke and the dust from the shaligrams and from his deities. The room was completely gone because of the fire and because of the smoke, but Aindra Prabhu was giving his obeisances to Nityananda Prabhu. So inspiring, dear devotees. When was the last time we heard anyone amidst departure, amidst fire, leaving this world, giving obeisance to Nityananda Prabhu? Even when someone is alive, it is sometimes very difficult to offer our obeisances. And here is a devotee not just offering obeisances when he was alive, but even after his departure, his body is still offering obeisances to Nityananda Prabhu. And this is very interesting. His Grace Adi Gadadhar Prabhu, he said a very beautiful thing, because we all know Adi Gadadhar Prabhu was a doctor by profession. When he got to know about this, he made a very brilliant point as far as medical science is concerned. His Grace Adi Gadadhar Prabhu said that, he said, Prabhu, when there is smoke in the room, naturally breathing becomes difficult. And when breathing becomes difficult, naturally everyone will want to expand their chest, because they want to breathe more heavily. Because the more you expand your chest, you can breathe more easily, because more oxygen can get into the lungs. But he said in the case of Aindra Prabhu, it is so baffling that he did not expand his chest, but when he gave obeisances, naturally your chest contracts. When we give obeisances, the chest contracts, and that makes breathing more difficult. And he said, Prabhu, this is very interesting, because in medical science, no normal person will give obeisances. He will not do something that will contract their chest. But here is a personality who was ready to kick medical science to the side. He was ready to contract his chest, but he was not willing to leave this world without offering obeisances to Nityananda Prabhu. Adi Gadadhar Prabhu literally had tears in his eyes, and he was saying that I have seen so many patients, and all of them probably would expand their chest. But Aindra Prabhu is 1 in billion who was ready to contract his chest by giving obeisances to Nityananda Prabhu. It is so heartbreaking, and it is so motivating at the same time, that if someone is surrendered to the lotus feet of Aindra Prabhu, naturally they will imbibe his mood of complete surrender, that is Atma Nivedanam. This is the final glimpse of Sripad Aindra Prabhu, dear devotees. To the left, we find when Aindra Prabhu was brought outside in the morning of the 17th of July. We find where the garlands are put, that is the face of Aindra Prabhu. And if we closely observe, his body is in Panchanga obeisances. If we closely see, we can see his knees, and the body is kept sideways. So his body was still in the mood of offering Panchanga obeisances. And towards the right, we find the most holy lotus feet of Param Pujyapad, Nitya Leela Pravishta Shripad Aindra Prabhu. We started our discussion, dear devotees, by Maharaj Rahugand's pastime, as to how Shukadev Goswami says that if for advancement in bhakti, if we need something, it is only the mercy. It is the lotus feet dust of pure Vaishnavas. And here we find, dear devotees, even though Aindra Prabhu has left this world, we are fortunate for those devotees who clicked this last photo of Sripad Aindra Prabhu where his lotus feet has been displayed. So we can at least, if not physically, we can at least virtually touch the lotus feet of Sripad Aindra Prabhu and beg for his mercy in our lives, so that in some lifetime we can also make leaps and bounds of spiritual progress like that he made. Finally, to wrap up our discussion, dear devotees, Sripad Aindra Prabhu in the spiritual world, as we discussed, is the Manjari maidservant of Radharani. And towards the left, we find Aindra Prabhu had actually displayed this in his book. The cover page of his book has the description of who he is in the spiritual world. We find Radharani is sitting, and Radharani is keeping her hand on one Manjari. And that Manjari, dear devotees, is none other than Sripad Aindra Prabhu in the spiritual world. Sripad Aindra Prabhu's eyes are closed in complete mesmerization of being in close proximity of Srimati Radharani. And Aindra Prabhu is playing the musical instrument. And towards the right, we find that same Radharani, when she comes as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu is keeping his hands again on Aindra Prabhu. And Aindra Prabhu is again in close proximity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So whether it is Srimati Radharani or whether it is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Aindra Prabhu has his spot in both their pastimes, which only shows as to how exalted and how self-realized Param Pujya Bhat Sripad Aindra Prabhu was. Finally, to wrap up, dear devotees, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he makes this point that if at all on this day, if there is anything that we can ask Aindra Prabhu, that is only one thing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Nija karma guna dosha jai janme pai, janme janme je ho tava nama guna gai, ei matra asha mama tumara charane, ahai tu ki bhakti ridhe jage anukshane. O Shripad Aindra Prabhu, on this day, the only thing that we ask from you is Nija karma guna dosha jai janme pai. Wherever my karma takes me, let it take me, because I have no control over it. Wherever Krishna wants to place me, in whichever mother's womb Krishna wants to place me, let him place me. But, O Supreme Lord, my only desire is Janme Janme Je Ho Tava Nama Guna Gai. May lifetime after lifetime, may my tongue lifetime after lifetime keep singing only the glories of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. Ei matra asha mama tumara charane. O Krishna, this is the only desire we have from you. We are not asking for dhana, jana, sundarim. We are not asking for anything, O Krishna. On this day, we are only asking that may lifetime after lifetime, may we remember and keep chanting the glories of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. And may we develop ahaituki bhakti unto his lotus feet. Ahaituki bhakti ridhe jage anukshane. May we develop pure prema bhakti unto the lotus feet of Param Pujyapat Sripad Aindra Prabhu. O Krishna, O Gopinath, O Shamsundar, this is our only desire. As Shukadev Goswami and Prabhupada, their time and again mention that attachment to a pure Vaishnav opens the gates of Goloka Vrindavan. May we never forget his sacrifice in spreading the holy names. Thank you very much, Sripad Aindra Prabhu, for appearing on this day and blessing us with your presence. And thank you so much to all the devotees for being on this call. I know I have exceeded way beyond the limit, and I apologize to the leaders and the organizers, but there was so much to discuss about Sripad Aindra Prabhu, and Aindra Prabhu is a topic that we discuss only once a year. So I'm extremely sorry. I beg at your feet that please forgive me for going over time. And if there was any inspirational point from this, the whole and soul credit goes to all the associates of Sripad Aindra Prabhu who have very mercifully given out these pastimes to everyone. And finally, we thank Srila Prabhupada for giving us this wonderful jewel in our life, from whom we can take inspiration on this path of bhakti. Sripad Aindra Prabhu Avirbhav Divas ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Arjuna Sakha Prabhu. This presentation was simply so beautiful, so heart-touching. Thank you so much. for coming on the call and accepting our invitation and making such a fantastic presentation. Our appreciation for Aindra Prabhu has increased leaps and bounds because of this one presentation of yours. So feeling extremely grateful to you for taking up this topic and speaking so beautifully about him. The way you started the class and the way you ended the class and everything in between, from the beginning to the end, every sentence you spoke was so inspiring. Extremely grateful to you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Preeti Vilasini Mataji, for your very kind words of appreciation. Actually speaking, I have never met Sripad Aindra Prabhu in my life. I am so unfortunate that Prabhu decided to leave this world rather than bestowing me his darshan. But most of the pastimes that I narrated have been narrated by different devotees whom I have met, who have had strong association of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. I am not sure if His Grace Aranya Vihari Prabhu is there on the call. But if Prabhu is there, Prabhu, can you please unmute and speak a few words, at least for a minute or two, about Sripad Aindra Prabhu? Because, dear devotees, most of the pastimes that I mentioned are the personal interactions of Aranya Vihari Prabhu, who has been with Sripad Aindra Prabhu for almost 15 years. So I'm not sure whether he's there on the call, but Prabhu, if you're there, at least for a minute or two, if you could speak some words of appreciation for Aindra Prabhu, we'll be very grateful, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Arjuna Sakha Prabhu, and all the respected assembled Vaishnavas. My sincere dandavats unto your lotus feet. Prabhuji, actually speaking, you have spoken almost everything, so I'm really left with nothing more to speak. The only thing is, which I just wanted to express my humble and sincere gratitude to all of the devotees, and especially you, who has done such a hard work preparing this wonderful PPT, remembering all those pastimes, from collecting from so many devotees and presenting it with such a strong devotion. And I can only pray that yes, Sripad Aindra Prabhu gives you his heartfelt blessings, and just by your association, so many devotees can really get inspired by Sripad Aindra Prabhu. And his his blessings are that we get more and more attachment to Sri Vrindavan Dham and to the holy name. Yesterday I was discussing this one just last point I will make, that Aindra Prabhu was a very practical person also. He was, of course, he was very deeply and emotionally attached to Sri Vrindavan Dham, holy name, deities, Radheshyam, Krishna Balram, Gaur Nitai. But at the same time, he was also very practical, in the sense he said that I don't love Srila Prabhupada just because he's my spiritual master. That, of course, that love and gratitude is there. But I love Srila Prabhupada because Srila Prabhupada has given me the holy name. Srila Prabhupada has given me Dham. Srila Prabhupada has given me service at the lotus feet of Krishna Balram. And Srila Prabhupada is the one who can actually give me my Swarup Siddhi. So that's a very, very strong point he made, that yes, just by the blessing of Sri Guru, one can actually attain the Swarup Siddhi. So he said that, so many times, like devotees, when on the appearance or disappearance day of any personality like Srila Prabhupada or Acharyas, so they discuss many points, that yes, this pastime happened, that pastime happened, I saw that Prabhuji, or I saw Srila Prabhupada, and there was aura behind Srila Prabhupada. So he used to appreciate that, but his mood was, okay, so that time if you got inspired, but now what you are doing, that matters most. So what are you doing with that inspiration? You got inspired, you got tears in your eyes, you got hair standing on end, but what's next? What you're doing with it now? So that is the main thing. He actually wanted us to get inspired and be practical and be fired up in the service of the Holy Name. So that's it from my side, Prabhu. And once again, really thank you so much for explaining in length and details about all the pastimes you heard from so many devotees. That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Arjuna Sakha Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sripad Aindra Prabhu, all glories to you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for such a beautiful presentation, for touching all our hearts by your wonderful, wonderful presentation, by speaking so much in detail about Shripad Aindra Prabhu. One thing, two things rather, I'll just like to say that one thing what you mentioned is that those who love Aindra Prabhu can understand his words. That was a very strong statement. Otherwise, sometimes, his statements are quite misleading and people can take. So the bottom line is, yes, we have to love him in order to understand him. And second statement, personally experienced. I'm really, with hand raised, I can say that I'm experiencing this, that those who hear the melodies, the song, the kirtans of Shripad Aindra Prabhu, no doubt they'll take up to the chanting process. So I can really volunteer that I'm really experienced because of my son. He is into it. So he hears Aindra Prabhu 24/7. It's 24/7, I should say, because even if he's working of his college work, still the background music goes on, that same tune goes. So really second your point and really tell all the parents that please make it a habit to play Aindra Prabhu tunes and that yes, you can copy my melodies, but you cannot copy my bhav. Excellent, excellent, Prabhu, excellent. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for such a beautiful presentation. And don't think that you went over time, because you were really binding us to this call and it was so wonderful. So thank you for your association. Radharani Mataji, you can take over now.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much.
It's kind of weird that time.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful, wonderful class and expressing so nicely. We are so thankful for you. Do you have time for some questions or realizations from the devotees, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, we can take.
Okay, thank you. So I request all devotees, if anybody have any questions or realizations to Prabhuji, you can please raise your hand so that we can unmute you.
Wow. Hey, guys, were to post something yesterday, and
Pinky Yogi, you can please go ahead. Mataji. Mataji, we have unmuted you. You can go ahead.
Yes, I'm speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Mataji.
I sent a private message. Could you please give me a quick answer before we end?
hello. I'm Miss Gabby. The cupcake is not.
In the chat box.
There's a
I
lot of
sent it to.
Brandon.
There's a lot of background noise. Yeah, now it's better. I couldn't hear anything actually.
Okay, that wasn't from my side. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mataji, loud and clear. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I sent you a private message. Could you please give me a quick answer before we end?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So the point that I was making here, Mataji, is that this answer actually can span into multiple sessions and even seminars. But as we know, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came down to give something that was never given before. Anarpita charim chirat karunaya avatirna kalau samarpaitum unnata ujjvala rasam subhakti shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dviti Kadamba Sandipitaha Sadaradaya Kandare Spurutavashi Shachinandanaha. Adilila chapter 1 text 4. Mahaprabhu comes down to give Manjari Bhav, the service of being the maid servant of Srimati Radharani. And this was something that was never given before. So when I said about Aindra Prabhu's final pastimes and when he was saying about his real womanhood, he is speaking about his position in the Golok Vrindavan. When he takes a next life, it doesn't mean a material life. It means that after quitting his body, he's going back to Radha and Krishna's divine pastimes, where he's serving Radharani in a female body. As we know, Krishna is the only Purusha and everyone else is Prakriti. So Aindra Prabhu serves in the capacity of being Radharani's maid servant and specifically under Ananga Manjari, who is Radharani's younger sister. So sure enough, he definitely came from that world. There's no ambiguity about it. There is no doubt that Aindra Prabhu is a Nitya Siddha. Aindra Prabhu is someone who actually came from that world to give Harinam Sankirtan and to inspire everyone on this path. And in 2010, Aindra Prabhu wrapped up his pastimes only to go back to Radha and Krishna's eternal world, where he's serving in the capacity of a Manjari, who are young girls, to Srimati Radharani. I hope that is clear, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Now I request Kasturi Mataji. You can please unmute Mataji and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for this so wonderful all pastimes of Aindra Prabhu. And I was just feeling like all glories to your deep attachment and devotion and love for Sripad Aindra Prabhu, and giving a little drop of it to all of us on the call. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And I was just thinking, when is the part 2?
whenever Kirtida Sundari Mataji and Preeti Vilasini Mataji instruct me, part 2 is ready.
We would like to hear, Prabhu, more and more. Thank you again and again, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Now I request Parima Mataji. You can please go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for this amazing class. I mean, we really got to know so much more about Aindra Prabhu. And thank you for this class. But Prabhu, I have one question. Can you suggest some CDs that, I can make for my son, basically? You said by listening to his mellows, he can move forward in Krishna consciousness. So you can suggest.
Definitely, Mataji. So there are various social platforms where we can get. For example, SoundCloud is there. There is ISKCON Desiratory. If you go to ISKCON Desiratory, we go to Prabhuji's, and then in the section of A, we find Aindra Prabhu, and then we have his Kirtans there. So all the temple Kirtans that Aindra Prabhu served, you will find that in ISKCON Desiratory. So we have temple Kirtans of Aindra Prabhu, where ISKCON Desiratory is the go-to place. Apart from that, as far as CDs are concerned, the good thing is everything is available for free on YouTube. We don't even have to purchase them. Of course, if we purchase them, the monetary gain goes to the Krishna Balaram Mandira to maintain the 24-hour Kirtan. But nonetheless, sitting here in the US, we have YouTube and SoundCloud and all these platforms. So the first is Vrindavan Mellows. It's called as Vrindavan Mellows. Second is Prayers to the Dust of Vraja. So you see all of Aindra Prabhu's CD albums are revolving, or everything in connection with Vrajadham. So first is Vrindavan Mellows, then Prayers to the Dust of Vrindavan. Chintamani Naam is the third. And the fourth is Vraja Vilas. So these are 4 albums that Aindra Prabhu came up with. And it's like a gulab jamun, Mataji. A gulab jamun, if we have it from any side, it's going to be sweet, like a mango. We find Bhagavatam is called as the mango. Whichever canto we pick, it's going to be sweet. Similarly, Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans are like the mango. Whichever Kirtan we hear from any minute, it's not necessary it has to be heard from the first minute. It can be from the 25th minute, it can be from the 30th minute. It is as sweet as the mango. So these are 4 albums that come to my mind, and 4 albums that Aindra Prabhu had come up with. And the 5th, as I said, is the temple Kirtans that he served. So Prayers to the Dust of Vraja, Vrindavan Mellows, Chintamani Naam, and Vraja Vilas, 4 albums. And 5th, the temple Kirtans that we find in ISKCON Desiratory. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Now we have like His Grace Adi Gadadhar Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You can please go ahead, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Thank you very much, dear Arjuna Sakha Prabhu, for this very wonderfully sweet narration. And it is always very nourishing to hear the pastimes of Sripad Aindra Prabhu from you, from Amarendra Prabhu, Aranya Vihari Prabhu, because all of you love Aindra Prabhu so much. And that love is in a good way, it is infectious. When we hear, we also feel so much attraction for Sripad Aindra Prabhu. I just wanted to share one little reflection when you were talking about Sripad Aindra Prabhu offering obeisances as he left this world. You said that he offered Panchanga Dandavat, and you went in detail explaining the biophysics of that. I was just reflecting that Sripad Aindra Prabhu offered Panchanga Dandavat and not Ashtanga Dandavat to show all of us that he had attained his Siddha Swarup. Hare Krishna. And Amarendra is adding attained Siddha Swarup by performing Panchanga Bhakti. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for that very wonderful realization. I think that is something I'm going to write down right after this class ends, so that I can quote that in some other presentation. Thank you so much, Adigadar Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we have one question from Mithili Mahalakshmi Mataji. She want to ask that question now. Can I read that for you, Prabhuji? Thank
Yes.
you. Hare Krishna. My question is, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, my question is, how we pray to Gaur Nitai that they may manifest for us to serve them as you, Achvigha, Sripada, Adigadadar Prabhuji. Shiva Singh ki jai. How we pray to Gaur Nitai? I think so. The question, I think so. The way Adi. Yeah.
How should we pray to Gaur Nitai?
She has posted personally to me also. Personal message she has posted, Mithili Mahalakshmi. My question is that for us who have not been fortunate to have seen Aindra Prabhu, how do we pray for his mercy and Gaura mercy?
Okay.
Hare Krishna. So Mataji, I'm also in the same boat of not having been in the direct presence of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. But the good thing is, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that he reasons ill who say Vaishnavas die, thou art still living in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name around. So the good thing is, pure exalted Vaishnavas like Sripad Aindra Prabhu may physically depart this world, but are still present through their Vani. As Srila Prabhupada would always say, more than Vapu association, Vani is more important. To follow in the instructions of exalted sadhus, that is more important. The striking example that comes to my mind is Srila Prabhupada when he was in Radha Damodar Mandir. Now, physically speaking, Rupa Goswami appeared 500 years back, and Srila Prabhupada appeared in about 300-400 years later. But when he was in Radha Damodar and when he was cleaning and crying out, "Hey Rupa, hey Sanatan, hey Jiva, please give me your mercy," Prabhupada describes that actually Rupa and Sanatan, they came and they gave their mercy. And they're told that, "Swami Maharaj, you go to the west. We are there behind you. We will empower you." So the good thing is, sadhus like Sripad Aindra Prabhu also, they are still present on this planet. They are still there to inspire us on this path of Krishna Bhakti, provided we are ready to follow their instructions. Like there may be someone who, like, for example, I may be speaking about Sripad Aindra Prabhu, but if I'm not serving in his mood, if I'm not following in his instructions, then I may not be a Kripa Patra of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. And as we find in the whole life of Sripad Aindra Prabhu, holy name is something that he always emphasized. Nam and Nam Sankirtan is something that gives happiness to the heart of Aindra Prabhu. And it gives happiness to the heart of Aindra Prabhu because it gives happiness to the heart of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So a sadhu, pure Vaishnava, is someone who will not have a separate self-interest. His interest always aligns with the interest of the Supreme Lord Gauranga. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the reason he came down was to give love of Godhead through the means of Nam Sankirtan. We find during the Mahaprakash Leela, Vrindavan Das Thakur describes how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would jump, and when he would fall to the ground, it seemed as if bag of bones would fall, and then Mahaprabhu would again get up and he would again jump. So Nam Sankirtan is the backbone of Krishna consciousness movement. And because it is the backbone, Aindra Prabhu took it up as his responsibility. It was not that Aindra Prabhu was musically inclined, that is why he took music. Nam Sankirtan is the Yoga Dharma for this age. If anyone desires Prema Bhakti, they have to perform Harinam Sankirtan. Irrespective of whether anyone is in Sur or whether someone is Besura or someone is in Tal or no Tal. Only yesterday I was hearing in one conversation, Aindra Prabhu is saying that Krishna doesn't see all these things. He's Bhavagrahi. He just sees whether one is willing to sit and chant. If one is ready to chant, they become the recipients of pure Vaishnavas like Prabhupada, pure Vaishnavas like Aindra Prabhu, pure Vaishnavas like our Sri Guru, and they become the Kripa Patra, as Gaur Govinda Maharaj would say. They become the vessel of, they become the recipients of the vessel of mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So holy name is that jewel that Gauranga Mahaprabhu has given, which attracts the mercy of Chaitanya and Sripad Aindra Prabhu. The last point, as Kaviraj Goswami says, Prabhu kahe Vaishnav seva nam sankirtan dui karoshi grapabe Shri Krishnera charan. Mahaprabhu has given two things, Vaishnav seva and nam sankirtan. By doing those things, we get the mercy of sadhus and the Supreme Lord. Jive doya Krishna naam sarva dharma sar nadiya godro mein nityananda mahajan. We find in that song also the same point is made. Jive doya and Krishna naam. Sarva dharma sar. It's the essence of all religion. Holy name is the essence of everything. So this was the life and soul of Aindra Prabhu, and this is the life of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So anyone who is chanting sincerely, with full steam and with full intensity, will surely one day become the Kripa Patra of Aindra Prabhu and Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Now I request Giriraj Shyam Prabhuji. You can please go ahead, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for your... Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Prabhuji, my question is, like, as you mentioned about the fire which comes from Aindra Prabhu, but personally, my question is, like, we know without association, we can never advance. And personally speaking, I have never seen Aindra Prabhu. I have never attended his Kirtan. So what can be, and without association, that fire and that the fire to practice Krishna consciousness, that does not come. So what can we what can I personally do so that I can always feel motivated and fired up to practice Krishna consciousness nicely? And as we know that we don't have association of like Aindra Prabhu and like that great personality. So like what are the practical steps that can be done in our day-to-day life that which can inspire us to practice Krishna consciousness very nicely and we can see proper in our Krishna consciousness?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Would it be possible to mute the mic? Yes, thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, that even I haven't met Sripad Aindra Prabhu, but from what I've heard from devotees like Aranya Vihari Prabhu and so many other exalted sadhus who have been with Aindra Prabhu, and from Srila Prabhupada, that like Prabhupada, we see Prabhupada would give this example that once when Prabhupada was there at one place, Prabhupada was sitting, and His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there, and there was a mosquito was sitting on the hand of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, very humorously, Prabhupada said that this mosquito is also taking my association, but it is actually sucking my blood. So being in close proximity is good, but more better is to serve their instructions. Now, as far as not meeting Aindra Prabhu and as to having that regular fire and regular intensity, for that there has to be regular hearing. If there is no regular hearing, then there can never be intensity in the heart. Like, for example, I remember yesterday, His Grace Adigadar Prabhu, when he was speaking for ISKCON Atlanta, he gave a very beautiful example. Prabhuji was speaking about Mother Ladini at the end. And he gave an example that Mother Ladini would quote, that if suppose there is a radio, there is one frequency wherein if you tune the radio perfectly, then the frequency matches and there is no more disturbances, there is no more glitch. But that glitch technically is called as static. So if we tune it to a particular frequency, then there is no more static. But if you tune it to any other frequency, then there is going to be static. There's going to be glitches. There's going to be problems. Similarly, if we want to be in connection with Sripad Aindra Prabhu and the predecessor Acharyas, then that tuning of the frequency is nothing but hearing Krishna Katha from them. This is the reason the first limb is Shravanam, to hear. Because if there is no Shravanam, there is no question of going deep in our bhajan. Hearing is the fueling for our bhakti. When we chant the holy names, if there is no hearing, there is no fueling. And we know if there is no fueling in the car can never go ahead. So that constant hearing from exalted sadhus is that fueling of the bhakti car. And then when we chant, we have something to meditate upon. Then the bhajan goes deeper. When we read the books of Srila Prabhupada, why are the books given? Because the books are given to give a shape to our bhajan. Our bhajan has no shape, but if we want our bhajan to have a proper shape, and if we want reciprocation from Krishna, then that is the reason books are given. So books are meant to give shape to our bhajan. And in Kali, Kirtan is our bhajan. And the best form of bhajan is Nam bhajan, Nam Sankirtan. So Sripad Aindra would always make this point that every day hear from very exalted sadhus. We can hear from Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Maharaj. And if you are not hearing Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans, I would highly encourage all the devotees to start ASAP, to start hearing Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans. And believe me or not, dear Prabhuji, Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans has so much potency that naturally that eagerness, that hunger to perform more on this path of Krishna Bhakti will arise. So one thing that we can do on daily basis is by hearing Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans, Aindra Prabhu's conversations. His temple lectures are very deep. That's the reason I'm not encouraging that. But in ISKCON Desiratory, there are beautiful conversations, 25, 30-minute conversations that are so practical, so nourishing, and it inspires, it gives you a real jolt. It's like a 440 volt current. Naturally, people get electrocuted by that. So there are about 15 conversations that are there on ISKCON Desiratory. If we hear that ASAP, naturally there will be an inspiration. So hearing Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans, hearing the conversations of Aindra Prabhu that are there on ISKCON Desiratory, and as much as possible, at least for 15-20 minutes, performing Harinam Sankirtan in front of our deities. Because Aindra Prabhu would make this very important point that Gauranga and Nityananda are not coming for other limbs of devotional service. Of course, they are very important. But the reason Gauranga and Nityananda are coming, and the reason, and the thing, the devotional limb that can give happiness to their heart is Harinam Sankirtan. So Aindra Prabhu would make this point, even if you don't have deities, at least take picture. Keep picture in front of you and perform Harinam Sankirtan. That will give pleasure to Gauranga. And the more Harinam Sankirtan we do, the more eagerness and more taste for the holy name will rise. Lastly, to end this point, Aindra Prabhu would say, we are not going to get the taste of holy name by simply speaking about it. Like we may say that, oh, I need taste for the holy name. I need taste for the holy name. We may attend many seminars of the holy name. But Aindra Prabhu would say, till the time you are not going to sit and do Harinam Sankirtan, till that time, taste for Nam is never going to come. Taste for devotional services is never going to arise. We perform Harinam Sankirtan so that we have something to go deeper in the form of Nam Japa. And we do Nam Japa so that we have something to share with others in the form of Nam Sankirtan. So Japa and Sankirtan both are important. Not weighing Sankirtan over Japa or weighing Japa over Sankirtan. Both are equally important. So three things that we can do on a regular basis is hearing Aindra Prabhu's Kirtans, hearing the conversations, which is going to give us the fire, and doing at least 15-20 minutes of Nam Sankirtan every day for our Gaur Nitai. Just by hearing the conversations of Aindra Prabhu, it will give us the much needed kick that is required in our life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, do you have like few minutes? We have couple questions in the chat. Is that okay for you? Or we can
maybe this can be the last question because I'm in PST time zone, Pacific, and it's 10:15 and it's a working day.
Okay.
So we can just take one question.
Yeah. It's from Anjali Mishra Mataji. She was asking, can we live in Vrindavan because we don't have the consciousness and qualification?
So when Sripad Aindra Prabhu is encouraging to live in Vrindavan for Vrajavas, it is always necessary that to live in Vrindavan, we should be under Anugatya of a Paramhamsa Mahabhagat Vaishnava. Because Like Prabhupada would say that if we leave everything and just sit in Radhakund, then we are not going to do bhajan, but our mind is just going to think about women and wine. Prabhupada would many times make this point. So we should always be under anugatya of someone, taking instructions of someone. If we can take instructions of Diksha Guru on a regular basis, that is the best. But most often we find in ISKCON, the Diksha Gurus are always traveling. So it is very difficult to get their association. So it is of paramount importance that we have a Siksha Guru in our life. Because Kaviraj Goswami says, Siksha Guru janite ei Krishna era swarup, antaryami bhakta sareshta ei dui roop. Siksha Guru is not different from Bhagavan. So if Siksha Guru has given this instruction that we can live in Vrindavan, then we accept it. Otherwise, as Prabhupada said, we can go and as quick as possible, we go to Vrindavan, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, and then we again come back. But during Aindra Prabhu's time, we find that Aindra Prabhu was like the Siksha Guru. He was like the umbrella who was giving shelter to everyone. So when we have someone of that stature, as like Sripad Aindra Prabhu in Vrindavan, then living in Vrindavan is a reality. But if we are not under a Vraj Rasik exalted sadhu, a self-realized sadhu, then it's always better to live outside of Vrindavan and do bhajan and go there as frequent as possible, Kartik, Purushottam, or whenever possible, to take inspiration and then come back and give that to our community where we are. But if we are in association with the Brajarasik sadhu, and if they have given a permission, and Sri Guru has also given a permission, then Vrajavas is certified, it is okay. But otherwise, we follow what Prabhupada has given, that we go to Vrindavan as less as possible, like for less number of days, and then we again come back. But if we have Vrajrasik exalted Siksha Gurus, then we can follow their instructions and take their instructions to heart of living in Vrindavan Dham.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And we have His Grace Amarendra Prabhuji. He just want to share something. Amarendra Prabhuji, please go ahead, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Arjun Sakha Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Such a beautiful class. I was thinking on Sripad Aindra Prabhu's appearance day, I want to hear about Aindra Prabhu, and it was a total treat. The PowerPoint and the wonderful collage of different pictures and different pastimes. It was fast moving and so wonderfully collected from different sources and different associates of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. So I feel very, very fortunate, and I feel very proud of you for spreading the glories of Sripad Aindra Prabhu. The more we speak about great souls, our tongue becomes purified and Krishna showers mercy on us. When we, just like as much as we glorify Krishna, the pure Vaishnavas shower their mercy. When we glorify pure Vaishnavas, Krishna showers his mercy on us. So this is the best way. The best way to get Krishna's mercy is to always speak about pure Vaishnavas who gave themselves completely to Krishna. And Sripad Aindra Prabhu, as you so expertly in such a scholarly way you presented how Sripad Aindra Prabhu was surrendered to Prabhupada and the holy name and Vrindavan Dham, how he was soft at the same time very intense, his attachment to Giriraj, how he surrendered even at the time of departure in Vrindavan Dham, encouraged everyone to chant, follow the path of celibacy without sense gratification, always focus on the holy name, inspiring everyone to go deeper in japa and sankirtan. All these qualities are so inspiring. I also like the Tree Danda Sannyas. I liked Giridhari Gopal Shyam, the importance of the wall clock without the minutes hand, everything. In fact, I really liked it. So I want to thank Her Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji, Her Grace Priti Vilasini Mataji, and all the leaders, all the organizers on this call for kindly giving service to both of us. Actually, servants means service, and if service is not given, servants are useless. So all of you are really kind, because we cannot serve Krishna. We really cannot serve Krishna. Krishna has to accept service from us. And so similarly, all of you are also like that. You have so many speakers and so many wonderful exalted senior Vaishnavas to serve. but all of you are kind to give us some opportunity. We are not serving, but you are kindly accepting our service. So whatever mistakes we may have made, all of you may kindly, like mothers and fathers on the call, kindly forgive both of us, and whatever inspiration may have come, we offer it back to Sripad Aindra Prabhu, because it is very easy for us to congregate for an hour or so and speak about Aindra Prabhu. But to live a life that he led with 25 years of surrender, wearing the same cloth, sitting on the same tile, chanting the same mantra with increasing intensity and absorption, all that we can do, our words don't even reach the consciousness in which he lived. So please bless Arjun Sakha Prabhu and me, that may our tongues Vani Gunanu Kathane Shravanau Kathayam Hastau Cha Karmasu Manastava Padayorna. Manigriva and Nalakuvera said, my Lord Damodar, if you ever want to give us any benediction, just give us this benediction, that may our tongue always vibrate, glorifying the qualities of the pure Vaishnavas. Because we are not able to live like them, at least we can have the enthusiasm to vibrate our tongue, glorifying their qualities. So thank you, Arjun Sakha Prabhu. I felt very touched by your presentation, and thank you all senior Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis for letting us serve. Thank you.
Yeah.
I see Prithviras.
So what happened is while we were fixing this one.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for coming on the call and giving us your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Radharani Mataji, you can please take care.
Yes. Thank you so much, Amarendra Prabhuji. It was so nice to see you. Thank you so much once again, Arjun Sakha Prabhuji. We are so fortunate to have and hear such a wonderful presentation. So we look forward for your association and for the second presentation also. Hopefully by the Preeti Vilasini and Kirtida Sundari Mataji, they'll please come over to you again soon. So thank you once again, and we look forward for your association soon. We can end the call here and pay our obeisances to Prabhuji. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Takoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Sripad Aindra Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Arjun Sakha Prabhuji ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you all devotees.
Thank you.